Hello, lovelies. Cory here, and today is day 19 of the 31 Days of Tarot Challenge, hosted by the lovely, lovely Ethany Dawn. Today's prompt is, what is the one deck that gives you the heebie-jeebies? Well, when it comes to decks and triggering imagery, I kind of feel like I have a fairly high threshold for that. And this is in part because I was kind of raised with the horror movie genre. I was raised on alien movies. I was raised with The Exorcist. I was raised off of all, a lot of classic horror genre. And before all of the, war took over with movies like Saw, the Saw franchise, etc. So as far as the darker decks out there, like 13 is on my wish list. And I actually really love the imagery and the paintings of that artist. And I know that's fairly dark for folks. But what's holding me back from getting that deck isn't the imagery, because that's actually why it's on my wish list. But what's holding me back is that some folks who've purchased the deck are like, well, because this is someone who's taken the artist's painting and trying to push it into a tarot deck rather than the artist creating a tarot deck. Some of the cards don't line up with the paintings assigned to the card, and there's such lush detail in these paintings that the card size is really small. It's a really small format for this type of artwork. So there's a lot of detail that's lost in translation into this medium, which is really disappointing. So it's on my wish list, but teetering between it, because honestly, there are a lot of other decks out there that I really absolutely love and can't wait to get my hands on that are taking priority over this deck. So it's just kind of been sitting there for a couple years. Now, I do have some other darker decks. I have as far as like light to dark in the spectrum, I do have the Disciples Terra, which does have some confronting imagery, and I do appreciate that. There are some cards within the tarot where the artist has chosen to really kind of make the imagery a bit confronting so that it evokes the emotion that they want the reader to, receive when looking at that deck. Because aside from traditional meanings, emotions are really important when working with the tarot, at least in my own personal practice. And part of it comes from just being an artist. If I create something that triggers an intense emotion, whether good or bad, it's like, ooh, what did I do there? And with the tarot, because this is such an amazing tool for self-development, it's a great shadow tool. It's a great tool to look at the cards where the imagery is triggering for you and see what's confronting about it, and see, okay, what is it here that is, bringing up these emotions? Are there any memories tied to this? Are there any unresolved feelings tied to this? Are there any issues coming up for me? Am I associating this card with something from my past that I need to resolve? There are so many different layers there that you can peel back. So it's really good, I feel, when you do get confronted by a card, to stop and kind of do that layered work and unravel things and see what comes up for you, because it could lead to a breakthrough for you in some area of your life. Even if it's a small area, it's still worth it to do that work. And so, with the skulls, this deck is a little bit darker. But really love it. It's a gorgeous and beautiful deck, and a lot of the imagery in it is gorgeous and fantastic. But there are some, like the Ten of Swords in this one. Ten of Swords in each of these actually is very, very intense card. There's emotion in the moon, that agony, you know. So even though you're not seeing faces, all of the face, well, not all, a good chunk of the people shown in this deck, it's a photorealism deck, have this bison skull or seer skull over their face. So you're not really seeing any facial expressions from a lot of the people. But in the Ten of Swords, you know, you've got the figure hunched over. He has swords all through his back, and you see the moon over him, just face in agony. So there's some really intense imagery in here that I appreciate and I like. Now, there's, as much as everybody raves about this deck, the Wild Unknown, there are some images in here that are fairly intense for me as well. The Nine of Swords, the Ten of Swords, you know, the Three of Swords, the traditional hard to deal with cards, where there's a destruction, you hit rock bottom, severe intense loss. There's some very, very intense imagery that's associated with this deck, or that's included with this deck, I should say. And the last one, this one I didn't, this is the reason why I didn't pull the cards out to show you, because especially in particular the Nine of Swords in this one, even I have a hard time with that. I'm like, and especially as a mom, I'm like, okay, it's just a card. It's just a card. And that's the Brightest Tarot. I did a walkthrough on this one on my channel, so you can actually go take a look at that if you want to see all of the cards. You can also Google all of these, you guys. The Ten of Swords, there's a lot of vampirism in this deck. It's a dark Victorian deck, which means I love it. There's just some great artwork in this deck. But there are a lot of scenes depicted in the deck that are very, like, intense. So this is definitely a darker one for you. But obviously I have all of those in my collection. So let's get to the point, Cory. What's the actual deck that gives me the heebie-jeebies? You're going to laugh, because it's actually not that intense, even as this one or 13. And that is the Zombie Tarot. You know, right? Okay, even growing up in the horror genre, zombies, they're my hard stop. Nope. Nada. No. I even have a hard time with, like, the Resident Evil movies. Seriously. And they're not really that bad. But I don't watch The Walking Dead. I don't deal with any of the, you know, any of the big zombie movies out there, Dawn of the Dead, any of those from that franchise. I'm just like, not a mucho. I do like 28 Days Later, but that was hard for me to get through. I'll be honest. That was intensely difficult. Zombies are just, they're my Achilles heel. It's like, no, that's my line in the sand. If something's dead, it should stay dead. And that's my one thing that I'm just like, nah, I'm out. And so I will not ever be purchasing the Zombie Tarot, which, like I said, it's not, the imagery in there isn't even as intense, I feel, or could potentially be as triggering as some of the other decks I mentioned. I find people have a stronger reaction to the Deviant Moon Tarot than the zombie tarot. But that's, everybody's different. And the zombie tarot was actually created by the same artist that did the Housewives tarot. So it's in that same 50s style, which makes it a bit more campy, I know, which tones back the horror part of it. However, I'm just like, anything zombie, just not gonna deal with it. Just not. I got a lot of other decks I can use here for shadow work. I really don't need a zombie deck in my collection. I just don't feel the need. So that's the one that I'm gonna pass on and just not pick up. So that being said, what's the one deck that you're just like, nope, not gonna do it? Because I'd be really interested to know, was it any of the decks that I mentioned that I have? Or do you feel the same way about zombies that I do? Let me know in the comments below, because I'd really, really be interested to hear what you have to say, especially on this topic. But that's it for this video, loves. I will see you in tomorrow's video, and until then, blessed be.